Hi. I'd like to invite Mr. Michel Karam, moderator of the last panel, Branding by Lebanese and Lebanese Cuisine. And the panelists, please come over. Thank you.
Yeah,
Loud?
a bit louder. Male. عربية بس.
Okay. I would like to invite the panelists of the last, the branding and by Lebanese and Lebanese cuisine. Please come over. Thank you.
How many do we have on this panel?
We have, I'm not sure, all
Let
of
me make
them
sure I
are
got
here.
enough chairs for you.
So there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, great.
I'm not sure.
Perfect. That's okay. Anybody got a mic?
Sit here, this is where announcements here.
Well, everybody knows this, but just talking to them. Like yesterday, we had a lady that was down here. Where would you like me to? Yeah, I know. Thank you, sir.
You're not alone.
You just let me know we have an hour for discussion. Okay. But basically it's an hour for discussion and half an hour for questions.
I live here.
This is getting discussion.
Oh, you do?
No.
I see, okay.
Where did you grow up?
Well, initially Lebanon and France.
And are you first generation?
I used to buy, one of my providers used to buy bread.
Now?
So first generation.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and
Diversity.
ladies and gentlemen, can I kindly ask you to take your seats? We're running a little bit late. Can we settle down quickly, please? Thank you. And if you want, feel free to move to the front of the auditorium. Okay. Thank you very much. This is our last panel of the conference. We thank you for your patience. My name's Michael Karam. I'll be moderating this last debate about building brand Lebanon through Lebanese identity and Lebanese cuisine. And I just want to start with a few words. You know, we live in a very difficult neighborhood. I say we, I mean Lebanon as a country. We are faced by a lot of regional challenges, and perception is everything. I don't know if you remember when South Africa emerged from the apartheid era in the early 90s. You know, the reputation of that country was at an all-time low. What did South Africa do to pull itself by its bootstraps out of its reputation for intolerance and the apartheid regime. Well, one of those things it did was to sell itself through its products, and one of those products was wine. And wine is one of the things that we'll be talking about today in terms of building Lebanon's brand identity. The other things that we'll be discussing today will be food, Lebanese cuisine, the Lebanese restaurant industry, and design. Somehow, in the region, a region that has a reputation for violence and all things bad, Lebanon has managed to retain some of the glamour that it's always been associated with. And I think that we need to build upon that and use that to help build brand Lebanon, to increase our brand equity, and to use that to help Lebanese goods and services abroad. Before we begin the debate, I'd like to introduce the panel. First, a little bit about myself. I come here via the world of journalism and PR. I started off as a journalist in Lebanon in 1991 after the war, and found myself gradually over the next 15 years moving into communications. I started writing about Lebanese wine. I wrote a book about Lebanese wine, and now I find myself today traveling the world talking about Lebanese wine, promoting our wine on a generic scale. And I feel that not only when I talk about Lebanese wine am I promoting the wine industry itself, but I'm also promoting Lebanon, the country, its heritage, its history, its tradition, and that unique generosity of spirit that I think we have. And I think it's trying to get that alchemy, that idea that Lebanon has a lot of components that we can put in a bottle and sell, that I want to discuss today. So I'm going to let my fellow panelists introduce themselves, and I'll start with Joseph at the end.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Joe Scheib. I'm a restaurant owner in Montreal, La Sirène de la Mer. I actually representing as well my brothers who were not able to be here. They own, they're founders and owners of Marché Adonis. And we are in the seafood and distribution industry as well. And I'm honored to be here.
Morning. My name is David Namour. I'm the founder of Munchies. It's a Lebanese street food concept, and also representing my dad for Lebanese fine cuisine.
Good morning. My name is Philippe Masraoud. I'm third generation in the hospitality restaurant industry. My journey started with my grandfather from the village of Tfoun, where he decided that he did not want to be a stonemason, and decided it was too much hard work. And he started our family on this journey and the rest of the village. That being said, I'm the CEO and executive chef of Ilili Restaurant and Ilili Box, and that's pretty much it.
Hello, my name is Colette Malouf, and I'm the founder of my company, my namesake. And I'm a second-generation fashion company, but I'm a first-generation American from a Lebanese family. My grandfather came to the US and brought the kaftan as the concept for his luxury loungewear company. And my father and his sisters ran it for many years. And I'm happy to be here today and answer any questions I can. Thanks.
Hello, good morning. My name is Mark Hoshar. I'm the third generation at Chateau Mizar, taking over from my family. I joined the family 5 years ago, the family business. Before that, I was in banking and asset management in the UK.
Thank you very much. I think I'd like to begin with a general question, just to get people in the mood. You know, when last year during the summer, when I was giving my talks on Lebanese wine, a lot of my talks coincided with the garbage crisis in Lebanon. And as you can imagine, if you're trying to sell something as pure and natural and organic as wine, the last thing you need at a talk is someone sticking up their hand and saying, yes, that's all very well, but at the moment you've got a major environmental crisis in your country. How is this going to affect the wine industry? So, I mean, I think as Lebanese selling products abroad, we always face questions about the country where we come from, and people say, yes, but that's all well and good, but what about the security? What about the environment? What about the guns, the guys with beards and the guns and the bombs and so on? And I think I'd like to ask the panelists today what their personal experiences are, either being Lebanese, working in a foreign country, or selling a Lebanese product, and what experiences that they've had in trying to defend brand Lebanon. Joe, do you want to lead with that?
Interesting point of view, because during the crisis of the, what you call it, the garbage crisis, most of my clients are non-Lebanese. So often I would get asked the same question. You know, you guys are in the middle of an environmental disaster. What's being done and everything like that. It's a very hard topic to tackle because we have no answers. All we can do is we can promote what's good about the country, how great our food is, how hospitable of people we are, and how amazing our wines is. Because honestly, there's many problems that have no solutions in Lebanon, I think, and I think we, as restaurateurs or people in our industry, we have to always put emphasis on what's great about our country and try to push aside what's all the negative talk that comes. Because if you want to talk about negative, we can talk about all different countries have different problems. But obviously, we're trying to tackle them one at a time, and I think we have a lot of great things in Lebanon, and we have put emphasis on the wonderful things that we have in the country.
Okay, I'd like to ask Mark a question. Mark, you're involved in selling wine, not just any wine. Chateau Muzar is not just Lebanon's best-known wine, but it's one of the great wines of the world. How do you think that selling wine has altered people's opinions of the Middle East, bearing in mind that the Middle East is genuinely known as an area where alcohol is not normally associated with?
There are many aspects to your questions. I think if you look at the history of Chateau Mizar and how or when we started actually selling our wines abroad, in a way we started at the beginning of the war. It's maybe funny to say that, but the war was a bit of a blessing in disguise for us because it forced us to leave, to actually search out and seek out new markets for our wines. Before the war, we used to sell 98% of our wines in Lebanon. At the end of the war, we were selling 98% outside of Lebanon. So it's a bit what Nassim was saying earlier. You adapt to a situation. You try to figure out what you need to do to solve the problem. And so, in a sense, that forced us to go outside. The other thing that we again try to use to maybe to our advantage or in terms of our marketing, people were perceiving Lebanon as a destroyed country during the war, a bit like the pictures that you see today in Syria. Destruction, fighting, blood, etc. I won't be more graphic. And on the other hand, they had the ability to taste wines from Chateau Mizar, which were by the middle of the war already fairly renowned outside of Lebanon. Wines that had elegance, that had finesse, that showed that even though we're coming from what people perceive to be a barbaric, almost area, we were producing wines which you know, were surprising people by their finesse, by their elegance. And so what it meant was that, okay, you can find the good and the bad in everything. And so it allowed, maybe it shocked people actually at the beginning to see that you could produce something like that in a country at war. And then eventually it helped us to get the message through, because people then would have a story to tell. The story was crucial to get the message through.
Thank you. Philippe, you have a very successful restaurant on Fifth Avenue, and it's one of the first restaurants, one of the first Lebanese restaurants that I've seen, and I say this with all due respect to any Lebanese restaurant owners here, that has taken Lebanon out of the more folkloric identity and made it a mainstream restaurant. How has the Lebanese cuisine experience in the last 30 years of you being abroad shaped your attitude to selling the country?
Well, there is different layers of Lebanese cuisine through the various regions in which the diaspora migrated. Montreal, London, Paris are one category where you have a very large Lebanese diaspora. And then you have smaller markets, New York and others, where there is a much smaller basket of Lebanese to tap from. So when we conceived the restaurant, we knew we were opening for the New York market with New York labor, and we had to make it work with the conditions that the market gave us. So in essence, we had to create a sort of interface with the American market and the American labor force, and convert these Americans into Lebanese ambassadors, both in serving the cuisine and producing it. Ironically, I am the only Lebanese in my staff of 200, and we're considered to be one of the best Lebanese restaurants out there. And that's what we try to achieve. And we're very proud, actually, to have graduated a multitude of chefs and managers who are American, 100%, but who are also today ambassadors for Lebanon and Lebanese cuisine, because those chefs now, when they go to other restaurants, are using some of the techniques that they learned in our kitchen to make their new food in the new kitchens that they're in. However, one thing I wanted to go back to, those of us that operate in the branding sector that are tied to Lebanon always live with the insecurity that tomorrow the floor might collapse from underneath our feet because of Lebanon. And Lebanon, unfortunately, does not control its destiny. And what I mean by that is when I immigrated here in 1985, unfortunately, we were the terrorists of the world. You know, we were killing foreigners, kidnapping foreigners in the country and all that. So those of us that operate businesses that have responsibilities towards our investors and all that are constantly have a hesitation of being all out Lebanese, because we don't know if tomorrow something's going to happen that's going to make us look bad in the markets that we're operating in. So we live with that insecurity. And what we did at Ilili is that we said we were a Mediterranean restaurant inspired by the Phoenician heritage of Lebanon, but that our cuisine was rooted, had all of its roots in Lebanon, to have a bit of an exit door just in case somebody crazy back home decides to do something really stupid, you know, and unfortunately, you know, we've been good at that in the past. So that's one of the issues that we have, but so yeah, that's it.
If I may, just to agree with Philippe, I've had exactly the same scenario happen to me. And when we started going on marketing our restaurant, and whether on print or on radio or whatever have you, you know, the marketing people came to see me and goes, so what do you want, how do you want to brand it? And my first thought was, I marketed the restaurant as a Mediterranean restaurant because of the exact same fears that Philippe was talking about, because most of my clientele is non-Lebanese. So I was always worried, whatever something happens, will it backfire on my business? So unfortunately, we had to hide behind the fact that it's a Mediterranean restaurant, but you know, we are Lebanese and my restaurant is a Lebanese restaurant. So unfortunately, for security reasons or what have you, we've always had to be, to hide behind a little bit the fact that we're a Mediterranean restaurant. We're Lebanese and we're honored to be Lebanese and we're proud to be Lebanese, but at the same time, the country of our origins doesn't help us to export the real picture of Lebanon.
It's a very sad that you say that, and it's a sad fact of life in the world in which we live, in the region in which we're from. Do you, Colette, have you had to feel any awkwardness when you talk about where you're from and what your work is inspired by?
The fashion industry is notoriously Jewish in New York, and when I started, I was afraid that I wouldn't get embraced by the community, being Lebanese. But I decided to just test the waters, and I really promote myself as coming from a Lebanese family because I grew up with this Orientalism in the design aesthetics that I was brought up on couture, and that's a big part of my story. So I'm very proud to say that my Lebanese family is a big influence in my life and in my design philosophy. So I've found people embrace the story if you make the story romantic. So it's just about focusing on the positive and romancing the consumer. And I haven't found any discrimination.
David, would you like to add on that?
Yes. So one thing, there are crazy people everywhere. So Lebanon, we do have our bads, but we do have our positives. And I recently rebranded, and I was like, why do I not want to call it Lebanese, my restaurant, when it's purely Lebanese? And I am more than proud to brand it as Lebanese. And when you tell a story that people can impersonify with and like feel it, they're a lot more willing to try now, I think, than they used to be 20 years ago. So now even branding it as Lebanese is a lot more powerful because it does give you a story.
Well, it's funny. I live in Europe most of the time, and majority of my perceptions are from Europe, and somehow Lebanon has been able to maintain its brand equity there. There is a glamour. People associate Lebanese with being, by and large, quite affluent because they are the they are the immigrants that they have encountered, and for some reason, in England in particular, Lebanese has a certain cachet, more than, say, Palestinian or Iranian or Syrian. I don't know, what is the perception here in North America? Is it similar to that?
It's changed a lot, actually, and if you look at all the stories that we've read in the New York Times or Time and Leisure and all that, whoever has been driving that PR campaign for Lebanon and Lebanon tourism has had a great impact. There's no question about it, and I think it's a testament to what happened with the tourism industry when it was, in a boom with a lot of growth. There's no question that we've turned the dark page from the 80s, but the past lingers, and it's always there to nibble at you, God forbid something happens. That being said, we have a lot of work to do in the way our brands are communicating in the US market, for example. Why should Greek or Turkish labneh and yogurt be better than ours when ours is 10 times better? I mean, I don't know if any of you have tasted any of these products, but they're, and where is the Lebanese labneh in the US market, and why are we not here? And why are we not supporting Lebanese agriculture to enter the market? Why do I have to be obligated as a Lebanese restaurateur to buy products from the southern neighbor because they have made deals with the US Congress, and all the mint, the parsley, the basil, the cilantro comes from kibbutz in Israel, And that's who the purveyors are delivering. You know, why isn't it Lebanese agriculture? Why am I not getting Lebanese za'atar and Lebanese mint? There is a lot of work that can be done, but clearly, and we can do it, and we can do it in a very short period of time.
I'll sell them to you from Montreal.
But
no need to go far.
But ultimately, yeah, but you know, the problem is that because you have the diaspora in Montreal, the product is readily available, and mind you, the Lebanese cucumber made it to the American market because of the diaspora in Montreal. But
I want to say, why is the largest hummus provider an Israeli company in all of Whole Foods and all of the other markets?
Well, that's because we are sitting on our asses and praising ourselves for being as great as we are, and everybody else is doing the work. I mean, we need to, either we put up or shut up, you know, but we can't complain and do nothing. And we're very good at that, unfortunately. I think that there is a lot of room for improvement, and should the Lebanese government, with the right, you know, the Ministry of Agriculture, Foreign Affairs, Education, decide to make that push, there is a lot of upside for all agricultural products coming from Lebanon. Another note I wanted to bring up is Lebanese brands that are coming to the US market need to realize that they're communicating with the US market. I'll give you a very small example. If you take a can of tahini, for example, you know, we'll use the brand Al-Qanatir. Al-Qanatir's packaging is the same as it is in Lebanon. You can't do that. If you're going to come to the US market, your packaging needs to be to the US audience. You need to have a brand ambassador that's going to talk to the US market, to the US consumer, that's going to talk the language of the US consumer so that that brand can have market penetration. That's what the neighbors are doing now. And all of a sudden, tahini is their greatest invention. And they even have a tahini bar in downtown New York. Again, we're doing nothing. And our competitors are moving at light speed while we are constantly missing opportunities one after the other.
So, yeah.
If I may just for your information, we are producing tahini in Montreal now at the time being, and we're starting to export it to the US. So we're no longer waiting for, is the airport going to close? Is this? So we realized we have an issue with getting all our products to our stores. So what we decided to do, all the major products that exist, whether it be Lebanese, all the cheese products are being produced in Montreal. Tahini, all the products that is a necessity to the Lebanese kitchen, we produce in Montreal now. We don't have to wait for anybody else to say, you know what, I can't ship because of X, Y, and Z. And like you said, all our branding is done towards North American market. Whatever products we import, we take into consideration that this product is going to be on the North American shelves. Therefore, it needs to have a different identity, keeping the Lebanese aspect, but obviously it has to be branded differently, because I think in Lebanon, when it comes to branding, they just count on the name. For example, whatever you want to call Cortas, they know the name. The brand is not as important as the name. Well, here, before you read something, you have to see the packaging, and the packaging has to be attractive to you in order for you to go and buy it.
You know, what I'd like to, I mean, yes, but I think the drivers of Brand Lebanon, or building Brand Lebanon, are very much there in Lebanon, and the challenge is to somehow get that creativity, that wonderful creativity that exists in such a small country out there into the world. You go to Lebanon today, there's a thriving wine industry, there's a nascent craft beer industry. We have a great national drink called arak. Why is that not out there? Why is sake out there? Why is Turkish raki out there? Arak was the drink that started it all. Why is that not out there? We have designers, we have people like Colette, we have people like Johnny Farah, we have Rabia Kairouz, we have Elisab. We have all the ingredients to make a boutique country that can somehow eclipse all the negative elements that plague the country and the region. And the question I want to ask the members of the panel, and hopefully when it comes to asking the questions afterwards, is that how can we polish and export brand Lebanon that it can have a positive effect on our GDP and our bottom line. Our wine industry is worth a measly $50 million a year. It's nothing. We produce 9 million bottles a year, which, trust me, in the world of wine is nothing. Well, the world makes 36 billion bottles of wine every year. We produce 9. But we can be a boutique producer. So, and wine can drive a country's identity. So how can we build our identity?
Well, for one thing, we're fragmented, and we need more collaborations between designers and artists and restaurateurs and winemakers. We need the collaborations, and we need to be part of communities, part of the fashion community, part of the art community. So each area needs to penetrate communities, join events. When it's Fashion Week, we should have events. We should be featuring different Lebanese designers, and we should have exhibits, and we should collaborate. And then when you get like the American Lebanese, you'll get the marketing, the marketing part of it, where Americans market the hell out of everything. So, you know, Ara can be like marketed not just as with water and ice, but why isn't it made with other flavors? You know, add sugar, add flavor, and it'll sell to the American market. So I think a big part of it is collaborating, organizing, and doing events on a regular basis.
Yeah. Let me add maybe one comment or a few comments on this. Even if you have a fantastic product, the US is a huge market geographically. I mean, Philippe is doing a fantastic work, but it's in New York, and the US is huge. You know, one of the issues we often get quoted on is, okay, we want to buy your wines. Where can we find them? You know, and it's great to have a brand that is known. It's great to have a product that people want to buy, but you actually have to make sure that, you know, they are available. And so there are many things that you need to do at the same time to make it a success. You need to have good coverage of the geographical area. It means, you know, distributors in every single state. Wine in particular is complicated because you have different licenses and issues like that. So that is a first step. And to convince an agent to actually go and set up your wines in every single of these states takes time. So it takes a lot of hard work. The second is you need a lot of presence, physical presence. You know, I spend 1 month a year in the US touring, almost, you know, one day, one city, just almost spreading the gospel. You need to tell a story. You need to get people to taste the wines. Wine is a very personal experience. You can open a bottle of wine, drink it at home, you will taste something. If you open that bottle at a restaurant with good food in a good environment with somebody you like, the conversation is going to go in a completely different way maybe, and you will experience that bottle of wine completely differently from what you would have experienced maybe at home. So the whole context of brand Lebanon, I think, is an identity of a good product, but also an experience. And the experience comes with people, food, and if you think of the only things that people experience when they're not Lebanese about Lebanon, it's not about going to Lebanon, because not everybody does it, obviously. It's food, people, maybe writers and books. Khalil Gibran was a fantastic advocate for Lebanon. Wine and jewelry and fashion. And these are fantastic products that we need to push. I think the government now has realized that it is an area in wine in particular that has benefits for the agriculture, for local businesses. It's one of the few products that is actually exported from Lebanon, even though, as Michael said, it is tiny. But it helps build the brand image because it gives people an experience of what Lebanon is about.
Can I interject?
Yeah, sorry, yes.
In regards to Lebanese wine, clearly Muzar is at one level because of the market penetration it's had on a world scale, but also one of the reasons why Muzar succeeded is because Muzar is unique. When you drink a Muzar, you know it's a Muzar. Some of the problem, and Michael and I have had a lot of debates about that in what we're trying to do what we try to do at the restaurant for the Lebanese wine industry, is that Lebanese wineries kind of deviated from having their own terroir product, started selling Cabernet and Merlot and Chardonnay, and with no identity, and that's not going to work. You can't come to the American market and say, hey, I'm going to sell you Lebanese Chardonnay. Well, what's so special about it if you're making it the same way that they're making it in California? Lebanese wine producers and wineries need to not be afraid of having their own identity, their own terroir, their own winemaking, get into that bottle so that it has a unique identity. The other thing that I've been, and maybe this will get done now that I mention it, is that there isn't one portal where you can go online that you can buy Lebanese wine on. Today, if I'm an American, second, third, fourth generation, and I still have Teta and Jiddu, like Ms. Ferris said yesterday, and all of a sudden I say, you know what, I want to drink Lebanese wine. I have no clue where I can find Lebanese wine or where I can buy it. So I would highly encourage those that have funds to work with the government and maybe do an online portal that links up the consumer with finding the wine product throughout the United States, and maybe through the work of the ATFL or the Lebanon Renaissance Foundation to lobby the US Congress to allow Lebanese wine to be sold. If USAID wants to really help, there's a lot of ideas that can be floated out there. And imagine the amount of how wide the market would open if there's this one portal that's very beautiful and sexy, a web page, and you can, wherever you are in the United States, boom, by the click of a button, you can get a Lebanese bottle of wine. And I think that needs to be done in all the markets so that the consumer and the Lebanese that's so proud can send his friends. I mean, today I invite somebody to my house. I serve them Muzar. Yes, I can tell them where they can go buy it, but if I serve them something else, odds are it's not available in retail anywhere. So
I'd like to just pick up on a point that Philippe has made about identity. There's a Greek island called Santorini. And in Santorini, they've got a grape. It's called the Assyrtiko. And the Assyrtiko is one of the oldest grapes in history. And Santorini is a volcanic island. It's got a lot of wind. The vines wrap themselves around. The vines are trained in a bird's nest shape to protect the grape from the wind. And the reason why Greek wine has exploded in the last 3-4 years is because of the Assyrtiko. In Lebanon, we've got a grape called the Abeidi. The Abeidi has been seen, unfortunately, with the exception of Mark's family, as something of a peasant fruit. It's what they put in Arab. No, we don't want the Assyrtiko, we don't want the Abeidi, we want Chardonnay, we want Sauvignon Blanc. No, guys, you've got to rid yourself of this obsession with all things foreign. Get out there, go back into your roots, dig into your heritage, use the ingredients that made you who you are. The Abeidi is an indigenous Lebanese grape. It needs to be one of the battering rams, if you want, for Lebanese wine. And we need to find other Abeidis in other sectors to define our identity and to package it and make Lebanon sexy. And before Philippe kind of reminded me of that, I wanted to ask David, how can we make Lebanon sexy?
Lebanon's been sexy for years. You just
Okay. How do we market it?
basically, like you said, you stick true to an identity that you believe in, and then look, we're multicultural. We've been all over the world. Everybody I know, as far as an American or any foreigner, has a Lebanese friend. So we're on the map for a country that's just 4 or 5 million people. We are well known throughout the world.
We punch above our weight, don't we, across the world? And yet we talk about this, and I'm going to use the word shame that we have. We have to take evasive action when defining who we are because of these hiccups that Philippe was talking about at home. How can we be proud of who we are, not call ourselves Mediterranean, call ourselves Lebanese?
But it has changed in the last 10 to 15 years, though. What we were talking about was mainly about 15, 20 years ago. In the last 10 to 15 years, there's a lot more people would identify as Lebanese restaurants or Lebanese products. And if I can add for a little story that happened to me with Musar, we used to import Musar to Canada. We used to be, and at one point Musar was not accepted because it had une acidité volatile very high. So your father came to Montreal, and we went to see him, we went to see the SAQ, and they told him, you don't filter your wine. Well, he said, that's the way I make my wine. I refuse to filter my wine. So one of the major wine connoisseurs in Montreal, who I guess you would know, his name is Faneuf. He goes, thank God for Musar because it still has an identity, because you open 100 different bottles, they all more or less taste the same. While you can taste the Musar and it has that a character of the country itself, of the terroir. So I commend you on that, and I hope it continues that way, because that's where you differentiate yourself from everybody else.
Thank you.
There are powerful stories that you have, that all of the people in this room have, and I think that we need a venue for marketing these stories and sharing these stories and building brand ambassadors. So the power is in building brand ambassadors within our industries, and with a venue that we could create as collaboration, through collaborations, I believe that the stories could become viral. So it's really a marketing, it's a planning and a marketing initiative.
That's a great point. I mean, a great example and a case study for the Lebanese government would be Italy. Italy is a Italian supermarket, food hall, wine store that is subsidized by the Italian government. And this is how Chef Mario Batali has been able to build a $250 million empire. They've opened Eataly's in our neighborhood. There's one downtown. They're in Dubai. They're going to Chicago, LA. And the Italian government is subsidizing part of the costs of the development of that. I don't know that we can do something on that scale for Lebanese cuisine, but or Lebanese food, but that's to give you an example of how government can play a role in promoting the penetration of agricultural products in outside markets.
But I think the Lebanese products, again, now I talk for my brothers because they're not here. I think in Canada especially, we manage to, you know what, the government is not, that's not their role. I think as business people, we are so proud of our products. We managed to open 11 stores in Montreal and in Toronto. And basically, it's a Lebanese, so whatever products you can find in Lebanon, you will find them at Adonis. So basically, we have something similar to that. The Italians are obviously a little bit more, we can't ask a government to finance or fund a project like that. I think it's up to us to help organizations to put people together to do something like that.
Agreed, but Italy today is a double brand. It's Italy and it's Italy, you know, and it's a huge success. And what the packaging, the presentation, the way they're
let's do it together. We're here, and that's what we do.
So when the gates to China opened and everybody started manufacturing in China in the fashion industry, the Italians were threatened. It was no longer made in Italy. All the fine bags have been made in China and finished in Italy or France or wherever. So the Italian Trade Commission has been supporting many events where they feature Italian factories, Italian tanneries, and they put these events together in small venues in different areas in New York during the fashion industry. So I can't imagine we couldn't do the same in the food industry and art and design. And during the markets for food or art or for design, the Lebanese government could, or trade commission, could support these, maybe support through organization. We could create events during these markets and feature other businesses.
There was an event like that in DC last year called Caravan Beirut, which brought Lebanese designers, artists, food people all together, and it was supported by the government, which had a good effect.
And we're doing it in New York in May. Yeah.
It's something, I mean, one of the things that frustrates me when I travel around the world and I see well-intentioned events promoting Lebanese culture, Lebanese food, Lebanese wine, and so on, is that at each event there's a different brand. Each event is branded differently. I think if there's one thing that we could ask from the state is that some coherence and consistency in a brand like Italy, so that wherever you go, you see a brand, it sticks and it's reinforced. Too often we want to be too clever and try and call it something one year, something else the next year, and in the end, there's no real cohesion. I think I'd like to ask you all in turn, as the panel draws to an end, what you, in your experience, would like to see, one thing from either the public sector or the private sector, any initiative that you think would go towards promoting the kind of polishing of brand Lebanon and our brand equity and our identity?
Well, I'll start. I'll take the example of Lebanese wines. There's not a week that goes by that as restaurateurs we don't receive an email from an association of winemakers in Italy or anywhere else in the world, where I can see there's a need for Lebanese wine particularly. Instead of just meeting Muzar, I would like to meet everybody. So I know there's a Lebanese association of winemakers, and I think that association should take most of the Lebanese, because the product is fantastic. I mean, not Muzar is on a level, but there's some phenomenal Lebanese wines. I think that should be a part of, that association should go around the world and promote Lebanese wines. And when restaurateurs like me or somebody else would go to a Lebanese, to an event organized by Lebanese Association of Winemakers, will realize the size of and the quality of the product. Then you'll be able to see, you know what, they would feel obliged to put that wine on their wine list. That's just a small example of, because they all work very hard individually. But I think when it comes to wine, there should be the Wine Association of Lebanon going around the world promoting the Lebanese wine and bringing everybody on board, because so people can see the quality and the strength of the industry.
Joseph, in the UK in 2009, we started the Wines of Lebanon, a generic campaign. It was self-funded, which is very difficult for the producers. There was no government support at all. And over 4 years, we did roadshows, we did masterclasses, we just really bombarded the UK market. And Mark was involved in that. We saw sales of Lebanese wine increase in the UK by 33%. Okay, because there was no government support and because the producers were self-funding, and because sometimes the results of these things are not very tangible. It takes time, and they lost their nerve. And the campaign has all but disappeared. If we had government support for that campaign, it would be going on now, and I think we need a Lebanese marketing board, a Lebanese wine marketing board with a central office in Beirut that runs 2 or 3 campaigns in key markets throughout the world, plus a local generic campaign encouraging Lebanese to drink Lebanese wine. And I think that will really, really reap good results. Mark?
Yeah, I think the government has already started doing a few things. We've had an event in Paris 2 years ago that was organized actually by the Ministry of Agriculture. We've had one in Berlin. We're having one in the US, actually, in 1 month. So there has been a realization at the government level that it is an industry to support because...
Just now.
Yes.
Recently, yes.
Yeah, it actually, yeah, it took years. And as you say, I mean, the marketing campaign in the UK was funded by the producers, but now there's more money coming in from the government as well, which is extremely helpful. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think it's something that needs to grow more. Obviously, you know, even getting some wines into the US are difficult. So for the event that's happening in 1 month, you know, again, alcohol is a licensed product, so it's a bit more complicated. You need, if you come as a winery and you spend, I don't know, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 to come and present your wines, but then your wines are not really available, is it worth it? You do it once, you do it twice. Are you going to do it in 50 countries? No. You're going to focus on, you know, where is your best return on investment, I guess. So all of this takes a lot of time. In wine, in particular, it's difficult to build a brand overnight. You know, when you have a wine that has an identity and is not a pure marketing-driven product, and I don't think Lebanon will work as a pure marketing-driven product because we don't have the volumes, we'll never compete on price. We can always compete, only compete on quality and producing something which is unique, and that takes a bit of time to spread the message. So really the only way is to spend time and time again on the ground, meeting people and explaining the story. I think in Lebanon we have an amazing story. People maybe don't know, but wines started getting produced in 7,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, and then it came to the Middle East, so to the Canaanians and the Phoenicians, so we're talking 2,000–3,000 BC. So when I'm asked, you know, is Lebanon new in terms of making wines? No, we are not New World. We're definitely not New World. We're not Old World either, because Old World is considered France, Italy, and Spain, because they're the ones who really developed this in the last 1,000 years. But we are Ancient World, and it's getting that message across that is the crucial part. We can produce fantastic wines. In Lebanon, you've all been to Lebanon. When you taste a carrot in Lebanon, for me, it has a completely different taste from if I'm tasting a carrot that's produced in other places. When you taste a tomato, it has a really strong taste of tomato. A pastèque, watermelon. And we have the same again with grapes. We're lucky and we're blessed by having a climate and a terroir that produces absolutely fantastic produce. We need to make sure we don't ruin it with the environment. That is key. But starting from a fantastic raw product, then you can really create a fantastic wine or byproduct, or whether it's Lebanese or thyme or whatever other products that you can then sell on. And Philippe, you were talking about a website for wine. I think it should go beyond just wine. In Europe, you have many websites which are specialized in Lebanese products, and it covers everything, every type of food, not only wine, actually.
Yeah, I just thank you, Mark, and it's very true. I have to say that there has, since 2013, been government support for Lebanese wine. If there were one criticism, I would have wished that funding would have gone directly to the UVL, who have expertise in marketing the wine themselves, and instead of creating several different Wines of Lebanon generic campaigns, that money could have gone into funding the Wines of Lebanon campaign, easing the pressure from the producers to have to fund it themselves, and gone into continuing the momentum of something that had started. But it's a plus, and I must recognize that the Lebanese government has funded 2 events in Paris and in Berlin, and we'll be doing one next month. Colette, what would you like to see, apart from the creating events, or is that your contribution?
My big message today would be collaborations.
David, one more?
Just not hide away from being who we are and being proud of it and going with it.
I think I have to echo everybody's feelings, and I think we should be promoting our products a lot more, and we should be putting ourselves out there because we have amazing products and amazing country, and we're honored to be Lebanese.
Okay, so I think
Michael?
just before we throw it out to the floor, sorry, Philippe.
Sorry,
Oh, sorry, Mark.
maybe there's one practical side, at least aspect, and it applies to restaurants, and at least it applies to wines in general for Lebanon. Wine is a product that has no boundaries. Basically, it doesn't care about religion, it doesn't care about war, it doesn't care about anything. So it's something that everybody actually eventually wants to have around the table, whether it's at home, at a restaurant. Promoting, and the way really we promoted Mizar was always, for the last 50 years, word of mouth. Basically, you taste it, you like it, you share it with your friends. You share it with your family, you share it with your colleagues at work, and it goes then beyond just the pure Lebanese community, it extends to everybody around you. If you're proud of having a product that is good, then just share it. And for us, this is really the best way to expand, you know, maybe learn a bit, just go on websites. I'm happy to talk to you if you want about the story that we have in Lebanon in terms of making wines, and then just share that news. If everybody does that, eventually over 5-10 years, you can't imagine the power that this has. And this is where the diaspora can actually help us a lot. Gifts, corporate gifts. This is, you know, I used to be in banking. We used to receive lots of gifts of wine. You know, if anybody who has corporate gifts to do decides, okay, let's do it with wines from Lebanon. This is an opportunity for a lot of people from outside the community to taste what we do, and then it goes on.
Well, if Lebanese started drinking Lebanese wine, that would be already a great step, because you know this whole thing about Lebanese wine gives you a headache and I don't know what is a bunch of BS, and I think it starts with us, and then we can take it really far. So.
Thank you, Philippe. Questions from the floor, please. Yes, sir. Can we get a mic to this guy?
I'm not in cuisine business, but being provincial member of parliament in Canada, fairly known in my community as Lebanese. I received a call just recently from Loblaws. Loblaws is a huge, big company. They have 150,000 employees across Canada. And they asked for me to meet with them next month to discuss issues, how they would proceed to buy Lebanese cuisine or Middle Eastern cuisine. As a sign of them getting involved in this business, they just bought the Ers, if you know the Ers in Toronto. They bought it. They have bakeries, they have all kinds of cuisine. But they're going to keep it under the Ers name. And that's the policy of Loblaws. They buy things like pharmacies and all that, and they keep it under another name. So that Loblaws is a huge, big company. What is your advice for me when I meet with them? How I can push Lebanese cuisine to move forward? The meeting is going to be only for 1 hour.
Joe?
Yes. It's funny that you say that because my brothers sold half their company, Adonis, to Metro, which is the second biggest company in Canada. What advice I can give you, actually, it's this, you know what, they've tried to buy Adonis before Metro. They realize that the market is stagnating when it comes to the Canadian market. They're only the only market that has some kind of it's improving on a yearly basis is the ethnic market. So they went out there and they saw who was the biggest player in the ethnic market. It was Adonis. So they they bought him out and they said, you have to stay on board for a certain amount of time. I think it's the Middle Eastern market is growing and will not stop growing for the next 10 to 15 years. by them buying, by them keeping the name is very smart. That's what Metro did as well. But I think they have to keep the people inside, whereas the Lebanese serving Lebanese products, if they're gonna start, and that was our advice to Metro when Metro bought Adonis, and they're not stupid, they realize that if you eliminate most of the Lebanese and you're gonna put Canadians in their place, the products, it was not gonna be the same. So basically, they need to keep the name as is, and they need to expand the product that they have. And they have no choice but to do that because the market is going that way. And it was a smart move on their behalf, but they're a little bit behind. I think they have a lot of catching up to do because the ethnic product is in full growth now. And I think they have to be, they have to think bigger than just one small store in Toronto.
Would they go to Lebanon and have presence there?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. That's not the way to go when it comes to, it's a different market altogether. Canadian market and the Lebanese market is completely different. They can do the growth can come in from Canada itself. It doesn't have to go anywhere else.
Okay. Yes. Anyone? Yes, sir. At the back. Oh, sorry. I'll take the question, this one first, and then we'll get a mic to you after. Yes, sir.
Oh, it's not a kind of question, but a comment just for the government support for the export of our agriculture or aggregate industry products. IDAL, as I said in my panel, that it acts as an APA, Investment Promotion Agency, and acts as an EPA. That's why we have a lot of programs to support all initiatives that you spoke about. One of them is to subsidize the Lebanese pavilions in the international fairs, depending on agriculture or agro-industry, as Fancy Food Show in New York or Cial in Paris. We are tackling, or Gulf Food in Dubai. We are tackling the markets, the potential markets of our this is in one side. In the second side, we have programs as Agri-Food or Agri-Plus, which give subsidies to our products to export depending on the quality. And subsidies related we gave them to the producers or the exporters depending on the quality of packaging and the quality of food. That's why wine is one of the products that we can subsidize, we can support, but depending on the demand of the community itself. As you said, there is an organization to connect with IDAL. That's why we can develop any programs as we did with the syndicate of agri-food or with syndicates with the agriculture exporters. We are ready as a government. I'm not saying and this depends about the Council of Ministers decisions to support all the export outside Lebanon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aitani. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, panelists. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Salim Nujaim. I was born and grew up in Ma'as al-Shuf under the best cedar trees, the most majestic cedar trees in the world. I am very fond of the Lebanese wines. As you said, Mark, I gift it, I enjoy it, I use it at home. And not recently, I was on a trip to the Hagues. The most expensive wine on the menu was Lebanese wine, and almost made me cry. I was so proud to be a Lebanese. When my daughter was getting married, I wanted to serve only Lebanese wine at the wedding. So I imported 40 cases from Lebanon. And this is the problem that we have, which I would like you to address, and perhaps we can find a solution for it, perhaps not now, but we do. So I imported 40 cases of wine. They were coming to Newark. I said, great. What I will do is I'll just drive down to the airport, I'll take a van, or I hire somebody to bring them in from the airport. No, you can't do that, because the only distributor is in the West Coast. So they had to take them from Newark to the West Coast, put them on a truck, and ship them back to Connecticut. And you know what this will do to wine that is shipped in a truck from the West Coast all the way to Connecticut. So by the time they got into Connecticut, obviously, I love Lebanese wine, they were great, and we did not use them all, but I know they don't go to waste in my house. But the issue that you have is accessibility. You can't always find Lebanese wine every place. And especially your wine, Mark, which is really exciting to have, but you can't find it all over the United States. It's an issue that needs to be addressed, and I would like to count on you on finding a way to do that. Thank you.
Well, sorry, Mark.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think there's no perfect solution that is immediate. We've been selling to the US for 35 years. Initially, we were in one state, then we grew to another state, and it grew on and on and on and on. And there's absolutely no way you can cover the whole market in a couple of years. So all the new wineries that are coming from Lebanon and trying to export to the US are going to have that struggle. Internet helps a little bit, but even with internet, you can't deliver to absolutely every state because of regulations in some of the states. The only way to grow really is it's a balance between getting the distributors to accept to put your wines and list them and put them on the shelves, and at the same time having enough buyers so that the retailers are happy that they see volume in these wines. If you try to take a step forward in one without the other, it doesn't work. I mean, if you tell your distributor, okay, put me in 100 of your retail shops, and then in 6 months he hasn't sold the bottle, then he's going to discount your wines, etc. There's no perfect solution. Everything takes time. You know, in wine in particular, there are millions of wines out there. The only way to do it is to grow it slowly and surely, ideally with your best clients. You focus on the best clients. You won't be everywhere, but this is life.
If I can add, I think the real problem is the travesty of US law, both at the local, state and federal level. The laws have not been changed since Prohibition, so we're talking the 1900s, and that's the one law that throughout the United States that's in horrific, it's just completely anti-business. And some states are progressive, others are not. Governor Cuomo here for example, has done an amazing job for the Long Island wine industry, and it's a state by state. Even if he wanted to sell his wine all over the United States, he cannot. However, the reason why I brought up the internet is there are some internet companies that are able to sell wine in the majority of the United States. And that's why, to circumvent all these ridiculous laws, that's why I was bringing up the website idea.
But I would also like to add that you've touched upon a point that is, Lebanese wine is scarce. I mean, 9 million bottles, half of it is drunk in Lebanon, so only 4.5 million bottles are exported all over the world. Just to give you an idea, Chile sends 150 million bottles to the UK alone. So with our 4.5 million bottles, we can't be everywhere. But again, there's an opportunity. We play on the scarcity, we build the brand, we make Lebanese wine so desirable, and people have to seek them out, and that is one thing that we can do. I also agree with Philippe entirely, is that the internet can offer a way to centrally sell these goods and make them available to you.
So you have to vote.
It's specific to every state. I mean, there are some states where you can actually sell much more easily, as Philippe was mentioning. Others, it's very restricted, and that's the law. We can't do anything about that.
So just, I'm sorry you didn't have a mic, so I couldn't hear you, but what I think what you're saying is, in essence, is can wine grapes offer an alternative to the Lebanese farmers? I think the short answer is yes, if we play it smart, if we choose the right grapes to plant, and yeah, I think we can, but I don't think the government's really looked into it yet, and there's been no initiative nationwide to offer grapes for wine as an alternative to Lebanese farmers. But as I said earlier, we're exploring the ideas now of bringing back indigenous grapes and offering the opportunity to plant indigenous white grapes like the Merouach and the Abeidi to Lebanese farmers. They can be used as table grapes, they can be used in the production of arak, and they can be used in the production of wine. Also, Lebanese farmers have an understanding of these grapes, and they're relatively cheap to plant. So I think as an alternative to apples, I think it's something that we should be looking at very carefully. Yes, sir.
I'd like to commend Joe and his family on having Adonis, as we call it in Montreal, because that's the flagship for the Lebanese people. We come from the East Coast, and I hope that someday you will consider open a branch in our hometown. And I hope that you won't give up control. And I also a little concerned about, it's nice to produce your own product locally in Canada for protection of inventory, supply, safety, service, satisfaction, the whole thing. But I hope you still buy your byproduct from Lebanon. And to answer Philip about the Greek yogurt and so on, the dairy product is a very sensitive product. I've been in the food industry years ago and so on. Like any other business, you look upon maybe 3 S's or 5 S's: service, supply, savings, satisfaction, and safety is an important part. I, as Lebanese, I'm a little concerned about consuming dairy product in Lebanon, because when you hear of the news of so many dairy companies being closed and they're not up to snuff as far as safety and so on, and the import cross the border or the smuggling of product from the neighboring country. These are the things that are of concern for us. All of you are on the right track. One step at a time is not going to happen overnight, but there's a lot of positives coming out of it, and we all should look from within and start buying our own product ourselves, as well as trying to get our neighbors to taste it, and word of mouth is the best way to do it as well. Thank you.
Any more? Okay, well, yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, my name is Fadi Ajam from New York City. I am not in the food business, I'm in the automotive business, but I think the question is, how can we promote the brand made in Lebanon, where we cannot import stuff from Lebanon at ease? I think we should, the government of Lebanon should identify the market, the world market, where we want to do business, and find out how we can make a deal with the host government. For example, if we want to deal with the United States, it has 350 million people. Out of 350 million people, 300 million are willing, ready, and able to spend. And if we can make some kind of favored trade agreement with the United States, just like Jordan, just like Israel or China, where we'll be able to export our product to the United States at ease without having a problem with the port in Lebanon or releasing the container here in the United States. I personally import over 100 containers a year from China. On a weekly basis, we import every Wednesday. We load 2 containers non-stop, and it is extremely, extremely easy to do it because the government, you know, and the shipper and the shipping company, they know how to do all the regular paperwork, and the government help with that also. So I think before we promote the brand made in Lebanon, I think our government should target the market where the product gonna go, beside jewelry or fashion or wine, there are plenty of product could be exported, target that market, and do all the legwork and make some kind of favor trade agreement with the target market.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I'll take this one. I can't cover the whole type of products, but I can tell you, well, we export wines. We send containers straight to our importer here in the US. It takes a while because it's far, and it's wine, so we put them in reefer just to protect obviously the reefer is like refrigerated containers. But when they arrive, it's a normal process. It's not extremely long. There's a bit of paperwork to be done ahead of time, and that is to approve labels. Again, this is because it's alcohol-based products. But apart from that, we haven't had any specific issues. I think probably what is missing is not the fact that there's any products that you can send, but actually the ability to, once they're received, to sell them, and where to sell them, and which are the entities or the shops that are actually going to sell them and want to list them. And that comes back to the question of the labels. How do they show? We had to change our labels. The labels we had for one of our wines in Lebanon, we do not use in Europe or in the US because it doesn't sell. So I don't think there are really barriers of pure container and shipments. It's more the business side that needs to be addressed, and for that you need people who want to do the business.
I think when it comes to agricultural products versus general goods and services, they are very different. It's a very different ball game, especially when you're talking about food and you're talking about feeding human beings versus a jacket or a shirt. So the laws are very different and complex. Even in the United States, it's a disaster. So let's not make Lebanon, this bad child, so to speak. Throughout the world, agricultural rules are a bit of a disaster. What I think is my biggest advice to Lebanese companies would be that they talk to the market that they're exporting to. I'll give you a very small example. We have bought about $15 million worth of food in the last couple of years, right? I haven't been visited or contacted by one Lebanese company whose product I buy. So until that changes, they don't have the right to complain about one thing because they're not running their businesses like business people. Or maybe they're running it like, they're 40 years behind in the way they're supposed to be communicating with their customers and their clients. It doesn't make any sense that not one company would contact us to say, hey, how's our product? How do you like it? On the flip side, other companies I work with are constantly contacting me to ask me about what they can do better. Are we happy with the service? Is the product good? So on and so forth. More importantly, I think what the Minister of Health had tried to do in Lebanon in regards to food product is very, very important. We did have a lot of problems in regards to agricultural products coming into the US being stopped due to salmonella issues and what have you. So there is a health and safety issue when products were coming from Lebanon. And we're talking intermittently, and that's gotten a lot better now. But having the right standards in the home base, having the right communication approach with the market you're going into, and having the government open up those trade routes for you, then it's up to you, the businessman, to step up, put up or shut up. That's the bottom line. I mean, so that's my advice.
I think we got time for one more question. Yes.
It's actually just a comment. My name is Christine Abinajam. I'm an artist, journalist, singer, songwriter, and also I'm married to David, who is an owner of Lebanese Taverna restaurants in DC. I just want to say that when I first came to the States, I was really amazed by how much people loved the Lebanese food, especially Americans. When I first came, I thought I'm only going to see like Lebanese people eating Lebanese food. But no, I was really amazed by how much the Americans loved our food. And I just want to say that the food industry and the wine industry are the real ambassadors of Lebanon because they reflect the culture, hospitality of Lebanon, and also the history. That's it. Thank you.
Well, I think that's a very beautiful point in which to end this debate. And I'd like to add not just food and wine, but also design,
Oh yeah,
jewelry,
fashion.
Anything that makes people smile is a good thing. And I think Lebanon has a lot of assets that can make people smile. We're a fun people. We have a generosity of spirit. We have tradition, we have heritage, and we do things really well. And I think there's one thing to come out of this debate is that we recognize the existence of potential of polishing this raw jewel that we have, really making it shine, making Lebanon the boutique country we all know it can be, honing our skills, honing our services, and using everything at our disposal to tell the world that we're a people of civilization and we have a message of civilization to give to the world. Fortunately, I wasn't here yesterday because I lost my suitcase. That's why I'm here today. But I think, really, it's a great place to end this conference, and I hope this message of what Lebanon can really give to the world will be carried beyond this conference room. I want to thank the panelists for joining me on stage today. I want to thank Consul General Majdi Ramadan. I want to thank His Excellency, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Gibran Bassil, and everyone else who's come here to listen to us. Thank you very much.